Lawyers, what's a law that isn't real, that normal people insist exists? In the UK, people often claim that if an item is listed for sale in a shop, then the shop legally has to sell it to you at that price. This is not true at all, as the shop doesn't have to sell you anything at any price. Often as a gesture of goodwill, shops will honor erroneous prices, but they are under absolutely no obligation to do so. Back when I had a goldfish, RIP Carol, I went to Pets at Home to buy him a bigger tank. It rang through at 000. Checkout girl raises an eyebrow. We share a laugh. She messes about with the system a bit more, but all she gets is 000. So she calls her supervisor. We wait a few minutes. A few more. The queue is building behind me. Eventually she shrugs, prints a receipt for 000 and sends me on my way with my free fish tank. Good day for me and Carol. Edit. So glad my most upvoted post is one about my old fishy friend. Also thanks for the little blobby guild thing. I was at a TJ Maximum or similar once and found a bunch of jars of orange honey, clover honey, and the like for $1 a pop. Absolute steal. So I grabbed one and take it up front. It rang up for $1,000. The cashier and I gawked at it, laughed, and she said something must have been entered wrong in the system. She punched in $1 and then only asked that I not abuse their return system. Probate attorney here. I've had many people ask me when the reading of the will is going to take place. I explain to them that only happens in movies. But one of these days I'm going to have one and hire a mysterious blonde wearing a veil to sit in the corner quietly. Then I'll tell everyone that she inherits everything. Provided, of course, that she must adopt the decedent's cute but troublemaking 6-year-old child no one knew about. Or she can spend the night in a haunted house. Her choice. There will now be a requirement for such a mysterious lady's presence at the reading of my will. Written into my will, along with a handful of burly yet solemn fellows, dressed in stereotypical German attire, complete with sunglasses and earpieces. One will be Russian, or at least able to fake the accent consistently, and should only be curtly acknowledged by the others. Every one of them should be entirely vague about how they knew me except from business. And the men should all refuse to acknowledge the presence of the veiled woman, and feign terror if compelled to look at her. My friends and I have an agreement that if one of us dies, the others hire a good-looking woman in a long black coat and large sunglasses to stand slightly away from everyone at the funeral, crying underneath an umbrella or parasol if it's not raining. That commercial use of a photograph means selling the photograph. Commercial use means that there is an implied endorsement. You can take and sell photos of Eric Clapton all day long. Put that same photo in an advertisement for a certain guitar without a release and you can be sued. There is a big problem now with that on YouTube and Bitcoin. My father, who is a lawyer, policemen cannot lie to you. This is false. They can and they do. Edit. There's so many replies that I cannot even find some of the ones I'd like to respond to, so I want to leave a general note for those who have asked for a reference. Frazier vs Cup is the Supreme Court ruling that affirmed the legality of deceptive interrogation tactics in 1969. The ruling is still active. I heard you were smuggling animals. What are you? A cop? You know where I can cop some pangolin? People that think it's illegal to be videotaped in a public space. I saw someone on Nextdoor complaining about my reasonable right to privacy in a public place when someone was shaming 20 people standing together waiting for takeout. Sorry, that's the opposite of how it works. If big time celebrities can't stop paparazzi from following them and their family 24/7, I have no clue why ordinary people believe that they have the right not to be caught on camera in public. Sovereign citizen stuff. I feel like enough folks have claimed to be sovereign citizens that it's become normal. But no. Generally you can't declare yourself exempt from the laws in effect where you are. My first job while in school was as a law clerk was to respond to pro se writs of habeas corpus from prisoners. One of the first ones I was given was to respond to a guy that claimed he was falsely imprisoned because he had sovereign immunity. He had changed his name to Jesus Christ and claimed that because he was a sovereign, He was not subject to our laws anymore and needed to be released. I remember being very flummoxed on how to respond. I spent entirely too much time on that reply. This feels like the kind of thing they would hand to someone as a prank/hazing. Oh loony Jesus is locked up again. Let's give that one to the new clerk to break him/her in. Apostrophe. An arrest isn't magically invalidated if the police don't read you your rights on the spot. There could be a whole thread of just misconceptions people have from watching cop TV. Miranda rights protect you from self-incrimination when being questioned by the police for a crime. It doesn't mean they have to Miranda you the second you get arrested. If you aren't questioned, then it doesn't apply. People also think it's illegal not to let them make a phone call after being arrested. Came here to mention the one phone call misconception. They don't have to let you call anyone as long as they give you reasonable access to a lawyer. That's why I love in The Dark Knight when the Joker says I want my phone call and the cop ignores him. Because that's exactly what they would do. Now, but here's one that bounces around legal advice every couple months. The age of majority in Mississippi is 21. So people say your parents control your life until then, and you can't move out without permission until you are 21. The truth is that the law means they have an obligation to provide for you until you are 21. You can move out at 18 and not face any penalty or be forced to return. Although the age for Mississippi emancipation is officially 21, this only refers to emancipation from a parent's obligation to support their young adult financially. In Mississippi, individuals age 18 and older may vote, enter into legal contracts, take legal action against others, and be sued for damages. Similarly, an individual age 18 or older who moves out of his parents' home is not considered a runaway in Mississippi and is not legally required to return to the family home. Apostrophe. What duties does that impose on the parents? They just have to make the home available and provide food. One example would be the continuation of child support. So if you were paying child support through high school then junior went to college, you'd have to continue until 21. In California, it's not illegal to discuss your wages with your coworkers, despite what your boss might say. Edit. I'm a lawyer in California. I assume it's the same in the other 49 states, but don't want to speculate. It's actually illegal nationally for a company to retaliate for discussing wages. They typically just make up some other bullshit reason to fire you instead. Make up some other bullshit reason to fire you for no reason at all, as California is an at-will employment state. Not quite on point. A lot of people don't understand that co-signing a loan means that you are on the hook for the loan as much as the other person. The car gets repoed, and then they are shocked that their wages are getting garnished. Co-signing is not you saying you think your friend is a cool dude who is good for it. You are saying you will pay for it if they don't. And they want you on the hook because they think there is a good chance the main applicant is a deadbeat. Basically, don't cosign shit for anybody. That's why I prefer the term guarantor, because you guarantee that you'll pay if the other person can't. This is the common term in the UK, mainly experienced it for student rent agreements where parents/family sign on to pay if the renter can't. As a former lawyer, UK, I lost count of the amount of people that thought jaywalking was a crime. Unless it's a road that specifically states no pedestrians or a motorway, no such offense exists here. Edit. To clarify, I am talking about it not being a crime in the UK. It may well be elsewhere, Australia, USA, Germany and others. Too much American media. It technically is a crime in America, so people think it applies in other places. Even in America, that is on a state level. In some states, it is just on a city level. When my parents die, the government is going to seize a big chunk of the inheritance and I'll get nothing. In the US this is a very common misconception. Although state inheritance taxes vary, the US federal taxes on inheritance don't actually kick in until the estate's value exceeds $5 million US. So, for the vast majority of working class folks, the federal inheritance tax won't have any effect. But people will still talk to their family lawyers and ask about how much Uncle Sam is taking away when mom or dad die. Even though many people think so, There has actually never been a Danish law allowing you to beat up a Swede with a stick if he should walk across the ice on Øresund during winter. But even though the law has never existed, it doesn't mean it shouldn't. No jury would convict you. No Danish jury would convict him. In my country, some people believe they can press charges against someone. You can't. You report a crime and the police decide if they are taking it further. It's not up to you whether charges are brought. You may want charges brought, but the police drop the case. Alternatively, you can refuse to press charges and the police can bring a case anyway. It's harder without the victim or witness cooperation, but they still can. You do have a right to civil cases, of course, but when people say press charges, they believe they can do this via the police. US prosecutor here. In my state, there actually is a mechanism to file a private criminal complaint. Very few people have heard of it, but those that have are often mentally ill and or conspiracy theorists. Our process is the person files the private criminal complaint with the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor can then either adopt the case and file formal criminal charges, or go in front of a judge with the person and convince the judge that the charges should not proceed. Technically, the judge could force the prosecutor to proceed, but I've never seen it happen. I've also only seen one private criminal complaint get adopted formally. When a private complaint is dismissed by the judge, the person usually files 5 more complaints against the prosecutor, the head prosecutor, the judge, the president judge, sometimes the governor, the president, etc. Then a substitute prosecutor has to come in to dismiss the complaints, which causes a whole new round of private complaints being filed. They are almost always a waste of time, but many times they are at least entertaining. I've heard that in the criminal justice system, the people are represented by 2 separate, yet equally important, groups: the police, who investigate crime, and the district attorneys, who prosecute the offenders. What I'd like to know is this: what are their stories? This isn't exactly what you're asking for, but I think it's valuable for people to know. You do not need to wait 24 hours to report someone as missing. I would hope not, since every cop drama I've ever watched says the first 48 hours are the most important. If someone has to wait 24 hours, they lost 24 hours of that 48. The crazy thing is that they say it on actual true crime shows, like, don't spread that misinformation. The one that is the most frustrating to me, even though it's not really a specific claim that a particular law exists, more a rule of evidence, is that's just hearsay. You have no evidence. Comes up all the time, in all kinds of contexts. Even lawyers love using it when it suits them. Nothing but hearsay and speculation. Usually, what people mean when they say that is, don't believe them. They're lying. Which, fair enough, but that's not what hearsay means. Lots of evidence is just a person talking. That's what a witness is. It's why testimony exists. It's not evidence, just because it's a person talking. Hearsay just means that in most cases, you can't have person A say that person B said this in order to prove that this actually is true. Hearsay. Get it? I heard B say it. It just means your witness can only talk about things they actually know about. And, extremely importantly, it also doesn't count as hearsay when person B is actually the person on the other side of the case. Person A is totally allowed to say person B told me yes, I will commit the crime on Tuesday, if person B is the defendant, who has been accused of committing the crime on Tuesday. You don't get to complain it's hearsay if you're the one who supposedly said the thing they heard. Close bracket. This should be higher. People don't seem to be aware that a single person testifying about what they saw happened can often be decisive evidence on its own. It's a law that exists, but widely misunderstood, is the concept of entrapment. If the police put a bait vehicle in a high crime area, that is not entrapment. If the police are watching a bar known to overserve to see if there are impaired drivers at the end of the night, that is not entrapment. Entrapment only occurs when a gov agent suggests committing a crime that you were not otherwise going to commit. The case that really set the court precedent for this was wild. FBI agents were badgering this farmer to buy porn for months, and finally he was like, sure, whatever. Wham. Jail time. I believe it was cleared. But damn. Was that dirty? Edit. So, here link. Wikipedia.org/wiki/Jacobson_v. United_States is the Wikipedia article on it. So the US Postal Service began a sting operation to catch people for trying to buy child pornography in 1985. I thought it was just normal porn, and when all porn was illegal, I was mistaken. They set the sting on him 3 times, and only in the 3rd time did he actually try to buy a magazine of porn of 11 to 14-year-olds. It was determined that this constituted entrapment and was something of a landmark case because they ruled in his favor. You can go 10 over the speed limit. My dad thought this was true as he was new to the country and quickly found out by a speeding ticket that it was not. Edit. I'm now realizing that may vary from state to state and county to county. For my case, South Florida generally tolerates 10 over, but is still technically illegal. This comes from the margin of error of speed radars. They have a 5-mile margin of error normally, and thus people feel it's safe to go 5 over. If you're only going 5 over and get a ticket, you should contest it and make sure to ask when the gun was last calibrated. Negligent motorcycle driver forced me to hit him from behind with my carry. Was young and naive at the time. Never been in an accident until then. Guy makes me sign a paper that says that the accident is my fault because I hit from behind and wanted compensation. He explained the situation to my dad, and he concluded that the guy was obstructing normal traffic and I had no option but to hit him from behind in the particular circumstance. That guy ended up taking us to court. Showed the judge the piece of paper that I signed. I explained that I signed it under duress and that he explained that by law, whoever hits from behind is responsible for the accident. Judge looked him in the eye and asked him if that's true. He said yes. Then she asked him to point out which law states that. He just shut the duck up. Duck that guy. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily Reddit videos.